A local politician is calling for the future-proofing of infrastructure in South Dunedin. Labour MP Clare Curran is the elected representative for the wider South Dunedin area, and she joins us to highlight her concerns for the community. Good evening.
Good evening.
What feedback have you had about the infrastructure?
Well, as you can imagine, there's been lots of feedback, whether it's drains, mud tanks and stormwater drains, runoff down the hills, all of that sort of thing. I guess my perspective is let's take a bit of a deep breath about it. Let's not point fingers. I think what there needs to be is a cool assessment done of of the damage and of how the infrastructure worked. I've got some real concerns about out there, whether it's maintenance or not. I don't know whether it was the very severe weather event, but I think that infrastructure parts of it are very old and it's under severe pressure and it's getting worse.
How are residents affected?
Well, where do I start? Whether it's emergency accommodation that's needed, flooding come right through, carpets. I mean, there's probably more than 1,000 carpets that need either to be ripped up or cleaned, sterilised. I think those numbers are still coming in. That's a lot of households. So emergency accommodation for people so they don't have to stay in their cold, wet houses, especially if they've got kids or they're elderly. Food. Replacement of bedding, clothing, furniture, all of those sorts of things. Luckily there is support growing around all of those things, but I think there's quite a lot of families that have spent sort of 4 or 5, 6 nights in cold, wet houses.
What would you like to see happen?
Well, first of all, we've got to get the relief to the people that need it, and I think that there's certainly a good system in place now to do that. There's lots of social service agencies. There's a flood recovery centre out at the Church of Christ. People can come into my office. There's help that is available. There's a fund being set up, that Dunedin flood fund, and we're asking people to donate to that. So there's a Give a Little page, or they can go into a Westpac branch. There's lots of ways to donate. Please, we need your donations.
How can the government help?
Well, there's a bigger issue here, and that is the rising groundwater out in South Dunedin, right across that basin. 10,000 residents. I think right across the basin and the waterfront, $4.3 billion in infrastructure. There's been reports done. There was a big report came out last year saying that it needed $10 million up front to start fixing that infrastructure. Central government has to come to the party. There's actually 5 different ministers that could be involved, whether it's social housing, civil defence, environment, climate change and local government. We need them. We need them to be paying attention, and we need local government to be asking for the help. And I think there's a lot of community organisations, a lot of people who are very interested. There's 10,000 residents that have, whose futures are affected, and we need to start that process pretty much immediately.
Will you be taking that to Parliament yourself?
Yes, I will, and I know that the Mayor is very aware of that as well. I'm hoping that we'll work together on that. I think it's very important that MPs in the city and the Mayor and the Council are working very closely together on these issues. This is about Dunedin's future. It impacts on the whole of Dunedin, and particularly on that part of Dunedin. It's not just houses. There's a lot of businesses affected as well, and and we're trying to provide support to them as well.
Dunedin South Labour MP Clare Curran, thanks for your time.
You're welcome.